pledge. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unity, and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. Thank you. Morning. Honorable colleagues, I have examined and approved the second votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 24th March 2020. Good morning, honorable colleagues. Let me first of all say and commend you that I was not expecting that the chambers will have as many members present. Once again, that is an indication of the commitment and dedication of members of the House of Representatives to nation building. Thank you very much. Good morning, honorable colleagues, and I welcome you all to this session of the House of Representatives, and thank you for being here. We have convened here in unusual circumstances in keeping with these extraordinary times. We are a nation at war, battling an unseen enemy. Besotted on all sides, we fight on, unbroken and unbowed. Honorable members, the arrival of the deadly coronavirus on our shores threatens the same consequences as if we were besieged by the terror of armed conflict. Though our struggle is not against bullets and bombs, our conditions are not any less dire. We are determined to survive through these trying times, and our resolve to triumph in this immediate course is absolute. In the 1 month since we last sat in session, the coronavirus has infected over 1,000 of our fellow countrymen, 40 of whom have passed on. Our hearts are heavy with the burden of loss, but the House of Representatives extends sincere condolences to the families who have lost loved ones. We pray for the peaceful repose of their dearly departed and wish the bereaved families the fortitude to bear the loss. The necessary precautions we must take to prevent further spread of this disease means that the bereaved cannot mourn the dead in the manner of our traditions, thus compounding the heartache. I pray to God Almighty that this too shall pass, and we will in due time remember the fallen and celebrate their lives as is befitting. The government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has thus far responded to the present challenges with equanimity. The House applauds His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for appointing a presidential task force on COVID-19, composed of some of the best and brightest of our nation. The members of the task force have risen to the assignment and proven themselves worthy. We thank them, and we encourage them to remain committed and to act always in the best interest of the Nigerian people. We especially recognize the Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwezu, whose calm and steady presence has been a comforting constant. We also recognize the Chairman of the Task Force, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, for his work in ensuring that the task force remains committed to its mandate in the service of the Nigerian people. The restrictions imposed on our people as a result of the lockdown of Lagos and Ogun State and the Federal Capital Territory and the curfews imposed by other state governments are a necessary intervention. These restrictions are a marked departure from the norm, and many of our people are understandably having a hard time adjusting. Honorable colleagues, As leaders in your constituencies, you must ensure that the people in your local communities understand the reasons for those restrictions and adhere to all preventive measures, such as hand washing, social distancing, and other guidelines set up by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. Our best hope is to prevent the massive outbreak of this disease in Nigeria. If we fail to do that, and this disease begins to transmit at scale, all our worst nightmares will become manifest for once, and our misfortunes will compound beyond our ability to respond. We will be left to seek our recovery. Hold on a second. Clark, is the AC on? Eh? Is it on? Are you feeling the heat? Please check the. You need the heat. I guess the mask doesn't help. We will be left to seek our recovery with limited resources to a long time and brutal processes from which we cannot emerge unscathed. We must keep in mind this unfortunate truth and act accordingly. Many have postulated that our current approach to managing this pandemic will not yield the results we desire. It has been suggested that we should look at other alternatives in dealing with this virus, alternatives that are more suited to our economic structure and cultural makeup and are custom-made to our way of life. Recommendations have also been made to the effect that we should lift the lockdown, open up the economy with restrictions, including the compulsory wearing of masks in public places. We will consider all these recommendations and more. Whichever way we go, the total defeat of this virus must be our immediate goal and our highest priority. The commendable palliative schemes initiated by the administration have helped alleviate the sufferings of some of our most vulnerable populations. However, many of our people have not benefited from any of the implemented measures. It is necessary that we act to ensure that as many people as need help are reached, and we must also ensure that the distribution of interventions across the country is inclusive and equitable. At times like this, there is a tendency for the existing fault lines of a nation to become dangerously exacerbated. The government must not be complicit by acts of omission or commission in any such aggravations, as such will only make it more difficult to maintain the unity of purpose that is essential to our nation's survival at this delicate time. Let me also, at this time, call on the administration to take advantage of the unique insights of federal legislators in targeting the distribution of some essential palliatives. When federal government interventions do not reach those that need, we are first to receive complaints and have to explain to our constituents the reason why they do not qualify or why they have been left out. Our grassroots interactions provide knowledge and context that can be useful to ensure that the hardest hit communities receive help. We intend to bring these unique perspectives in our ongoing work to codify the National Social Investment Program into a bill that will be considered by the House at our next adjourned date. We will also at that time seek to pass a second economic stimulus bill to provide necessary relief to individuals and corporate organizations in Nigeria. We expect that before then, the Senate will quickly consider and pass the first economic stimulus bill, which has since passed in the House and now awaits concurrence by the Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, the shutdown of commercial activities initiated here at home and abroad to curb community transmission of COVID-19 has devastated the global economy. We have already begun to see the effect in millions of lost jobs, lost incomes, lost revenue, and severely diminished productivity. In the past week, we saw oil prices fall into negative value. Our country, heavily dependent on crude oil income, has seen a drop in our revenue so severe that we risk failing to meet even the most basic obligation of governance. At a time when the social welfare demands on the public purse are higher than they have ever been, our present reality calls for nothing short of a wholesale reform of our governing structures, systems, and processes. Any such efforts must of necessity begin with drastic reductions in the cost of governance, coupled with determined efforts to drive economic diversity and innovation in the non-oil sector. It is in preparing for this new reality that I have established a post-COVID-19 strategic response team with a broad mandate to develop interventions and reforms, and also to update the legislative agenda to reflect our post-COVID realities and priorities. The strategic response team will be supported by a group of technical experts, private sector leaders, and representatives. Their experience and expertise will ensure that the policy proposals presented to the House are rigorously grounded in a fact-based reality. There are no longer any sacred cows, protected spaces, or classes. Even every area of our national health policy, economic policy, tax policy, education policy, and security architecture are now on the table for reform. We must turn this moment of profound crisis into an opportunity to make the hard choices we have too long deferred, but can now no longer avoid if we are to survive as a nation. This House of Representatives is ready, and I trust that we will find allies in government and across our country who are prepared to make the changes that our country needs to survive, recover, and thrive. As we contend with the challenges of this pandemic and an economy in decline, we must not lose sight of the plight of our citizens in foreign lands who suffer stigma, harassment, and abuse in the hands of their hosts. A few weeks ago, the House intervened in the matter of Nigerian nationals in dire circumstances in China. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, has been consistent in his defense of the rights of Nigerians abroad, and the House commends his efforts. Yet, despite his efforts and the assurances given to the House by the Chinese ambassador in Nigeria, there are still reports of ongoing mistreatment of Nigerians in China. I call once more on the government of the People's Republic of China to ensure that Nigerians and people of African descent resident in China receive the human rights protections to which all citizens of the world are entitled. These are the same rights and privileges the people of China receive in foreign lands, including here in Nigeria. Where there are credible cases of discrimination, harassment, or rights abuses against our citizens, swift and visible action must be taken by the Chinese authorities to safeguard lives, livelihoods, property, and the sense of human dignity of Nigerians and fellow Africans. Extrajudicial punishments, including unlawful evictions or detention of persons of color under the guise of quarantine, are not acceptable to us. Any abuse of human rights or departures from the structures of international law betrays our shared humanity and calls for the most stringent and globally coordinated response if it persists. Here at home, we are immensely proud of our fellow citizens who have in the last month shown kindness and empathy beyond anything anybody could have imagined. All over this great land, without being asked, people have extended assistance to friends, family, and strangers alike in ways big and small. The private sector-led Coalition Against COVID, otherwise known as CACOVID, has raised enormous sums to assist the efforts of the federal government and state governments in providing healthcare access, food supplies, and other palliatives. Citizens have committed substantial personal resources to provide cash grants, food, and medicine. As a nation, we have set aside mundane considerations and shown that our capacity for brotherhood may well be limitless. It is this, more than anything else, that assures me that we will overcome our current challenges and emerge stronger and better than we ever were. On this note, I salute all our honorable colleagues for your contributions to the welfare and well-being of your constituents in these challenging times. The reports thus far received of your individual efforts have been laudable, and I thank you on behalf of all the Nigerian people. As we deliberate today, Let our utterances be guided principally by the desire to bring forth ideas that will improve our nation's ability to rise to the challenge of the times. Let us speak with the recognition that this is no time for politics or the consideration of minor things. This is a time for selfless service, for courage and determination to make the critical decisions necessary to survive this pandemic and shape a better future for us. Honorable colleagues, none of us expected that our tenure of service will include these extraordinary times. We did not foresee the challenges we now face and must overcome. But we know that this is a time for statesmen who are willing to do what is hard and make the difficult choices from which greatness is born. I call on this honorable House to, with one accord, boldly act in whatever ways we must to protect our people from the immediate ravages of hunger, disease, death, and economic devastation. Let us see to it that when the verdict of posterity is delivered, it will be kind to us. In reconvening the House today, we have sought the guidance of health professionals and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control. The legislative role in a democracy is essential, and we do not have the option of sitting on the sidelines, particularly at this critical time. We have taken adequate steps to make sure we comply with the guidelines and protocol as put in place by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization. This present crisis brings to the fore the need to update our rules and practices in the National Assembly to allow for more effective use of technological tools that aid remote working. In the interim, committees of the House should continue with relevant and practical oversight work while observing strict guidelines. I thank you all once more for being here today, and I welcome you back to the chambers. I pray for God's mercy and wisdom to guide us through these times. God bless you all, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Is there any member with a petition to present? A matter of urgent public importance? Matter of urgent public importance. Leader of the House.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my respected colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Alhassan Ado Dogwa is my name. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I represent the people of Dogwa, Sudunwada Federal Constituency from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ride on the leverage of the order of our House, Order 8, Rule 4, to come on a matter of urgent national importance, on a matter with a need for an urgent intervention on the rising spate of unexplained deaths occurring in Kano State, and the need for reinforcement of the COVID-19 response initiative to combat community transmission across the Federation. Mr. Speaker, in the second leg of my motion, I would also like to crave the indulgence of this honorable House to allow us to suspend relevant rule and allow me to take the motion immediately. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, thank you. I so move.
All right. The leader's motion of urgent public importance is on the goings-on in Kano, which we are all aware. Can we get... Can we get a seconder? Honorable Nasir Ali Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Nasir Ali Ahmed. I represent Nasara Federal Constituency, and I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the House Leader. I so second.
So for brevity, I want to assume that you're seconding both legs of the motion and they want to suspend our rules.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm seconding both legs of the motion.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Leader.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you, distinguished honorable members. Let me once again say that, Mr. Speaker, for purposes of clearance, that this is a motion that we have discussed at the level of leadership, and it's given Kano only as a case study, but it's a motion that has every good intent to every other state that is affected by COVID-19 one way or the other. It is therefore a motion for and on behalf of each and every one of us here, and I beg your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, that at the end of my submission, every other member, especially as perhaps the state caucus leaders, should also be allowed to speak and give us their own experience, which I believe is part of the reasons why we reconvene to address this serious problem, just for the purposes of clearance. And I therefore read.
I'm not sure we'll be able to allow that many state caucuses. That's 36 people debating the motion. So I think the motion will more than likely be very clear, but I think with you and 3-4 people should be enough to carry the motion. Yes, so go ahead.
The House notes that index COVID-19 case was recorded in February 27, 2020. Aware that the country has so far recorded 1,337 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 40 days cases, and 255 recoveries. Equally mindful that federal government has released the sum of 5 billion aware that country has so far recorded 1,337 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 40 test cases, and 255 recoveries. Equally mindful that the federal government has released the sum of 5 billion to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to scale up capacity and strategize rapid response to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Worried by the rising spate of unexplained deaths in Kano State in recent weeks, where 77 COVID-19 cases and 1 death case have been recorded in less than 2 weeks. Aware that Kano State, being the most populated state of the Federation and a cosmopolitan city, according to the National Population Commission, has only one testing center which has been shut down for about a week now, reportedly due to lack of some testing materials and reagents. Concern that Nigeria has so far tested a paltry number of 10,918,000 of estimated 200 million population, whereas Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt, which with much lower population have tested over 168,622 cases, and 90,000 of their people respectively. Aware that Nigeria currently has the capacity of 3,000 tests in a day, whereas the South Africa has nearly 10,000 test capacity per day. Concern that Nigeria has only 15 testing centers on one each in Kano, Sokoto, Borno, Kaduna, Plateau, Osun, Edo, and Ebonyi states, 2 in the FCT and 3 in Lagos State. Conscious of the fact that whereas sample collections and transportation remain a critical challenge in Nigeria's fight against COVID-19, according to NCDC, Ghana has since engaged the services of drone technology to the delivery of samples to help save lives more quickly, and drones also have the capacity to deliver test kits and personal protection equipment. Convinced of the urgent need to arrest the rising cases of unexplained deaths in Kano State and also scale up national response initiative to the coronavirus pandemic, including the establishment of at least one testing center in every state of the Federation to save the nation from the grave scenario being witnessed today in Kano State. Appreciate the actions taken by the Federal Republic of Nigeria as contained in the recent national broadcast by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. The House resolves that to summon the DG NCDC, Honorable Minister, and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force to appear before it at plenary on Tuesday, May 5, 2020, to brief it on government response initiative to the COVID-19 pandemic and its template for the intervention in all the states of the Federation. Urge the federal government to, as a matter of urgency and priority, scale up the nation's COVID-19 testing capacity nationwide. Call on the NCDC to adopt creatively proactive modern approaches and technologies in the management of COVID-19 pandemic. 4, to investigate the immediate and remote causes of the unexplained huge number of deaths in Kano State and other affected states. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Any second, Chief Whip? Sorry, who's that? Is that Honorable Gimba? Who's that in black?
It's not Gimba, it's Honorable Buma.
Haji Aboma? Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Martin Monguno, Ganze Federal Constituency of Borno State. I second the motion ably moved by the Leader of the House.
Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right honorable members. Let me once again thank the honorable Speaker and indeed the members of the House for allowing me this opportunity to not only relay my experience and the experience of the people of Kano State on these green chambers, but to also share in grief the widespread crisis of COVID-19 in the nation. Your Excellency, the Speaker, right honorable members, the case we have in Kano today is worrisome. The case we have in Kano at hand, Mr. Speaker, is alarming. Some people call it disaster. Some others call it a calamity. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, based on my personal experience of what is actually happening in the state, that the case at hand in Kano is not only a disaster. It is not only calamitous, Mr. Speaker, it is catastrophic. It is catastrophic, not only going by the number of days we record on a daily basis, the huge number of human lives that we lost, especially to a disease that is yet unknown. Of course, notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, some of the deaths we recorded may not be unrelated or unconnected with the COVID-19 infection. But it is believed, even by the medical professional in the state, that there must be something behind or aside the COVID-19. Thank God the state government and the governor, and indeed the federal government, have also taken recent steps to investigate and find out what actually is that extra cause for this unfortunate loss of our loved ones in the state. Mr. Speaker, let me say that while this House gathers to discuss this problem on these green chambers, it is not about Kano alone. It is about the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I believe in each and every state that we have in the Federation, you have 1 or 2 cases of COVID-19. Even in the cases of those few states that have not gotten any index case yet, I want to believe ordinarily as a layman that there might be such cases in existence. Unfortunately, because we don't have enough sufficient testing centers in some of the states, you may not know who else is affected or otherwise. It is on this ground that, Mr. Speaker, I rise to seek the indulgence of this House to tell you that the 24 members of the House of Representatives from our dear state, Kano, and indeed your dear state, Kano, we are today on our knees to seek the indulgence of this House, to ride on the instrumentality of this institution of the House of Representatives, to beg and crave the indulgence and urgent intervention of one, the federal government, international donors, to help us wade into these circumstances to be able to save the lives of our people. Kano is such an implicative state. If you look at it from its situation in terms of commercial nerve center of the northern part of the country, even our social relations, the whole of the other states of the north are connected to Kano State one way or the other. Consider the over 2 million, 20 million people we have there. We need a very swift intervention. Mr. Speaker, we need the support of this House and the support of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to sweep into action by collaborating with the state governor and the government of the state to see to the end of this crisis. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid the way we are going in Kano, if care is not taken, the ravages we are undergoing may be worse than Boko Haram. Boko Haram, like you said in your own opening remarks, they kill through the gun, they kill through aggression, but this one kills people silently, with a choked up population, especially in the ancient city of Kano, where you have in just one local government, over 600 polling units. Dala local government, for instance, is the biggest local government in terms of population and number of polling units. 600 polling units in one local government. And these are people who are jam-packed in, unfortunately, an unpalatable accommodation system. We have this problem existing for long. This has also made things worse. The season, for instance, is the hot season. Transition between the mild season of cold season into the hot season, perhaps subsequently the rainy season. In the past, we used to experience this kind of circumstances at this epochal period. But the number of days, the huge number we are recording today, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, is unprecedented. It is not about political parties. I hear people say a lot of things about the governor or the government, or even the people. The governor is human. Those of us who are representing the people of the state in Nigeria, in the Federal House of Representatives here, as their own representative, we are also human. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me use this apolitical platform, apolitical, despite our political affiliations to say that the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, and specifically in Kano, has got nothing to do with political affiliation. It does not respect party politics. It does not respect tribe. It doesn't respect religion. After all, you can all bear with me that Kano is one of those states that you must call unavoidably a cosmopolitan city. We have huge number of Yorubas, Mr. Speaker. Some of them are from Surulere. They reside in Kano. It's their second home. We have nothing about it. We have the Igbos. Some of them are from Enugu, some from Delta. The Delta Igbos are there residing in Kano. They are our people, and they are Kano indigenous. We have Edo people. And among the Edo people, the leader of the Edo communities, the chief of the Edo communities in Lagos, is a senior brother to Sergio's, who is seated here. We have his brothers and brethren as citizens and indigents of Kano State. It is on this ground and on this note, Mr. Speaker, that I want to urge each and every one of us to look at this case as a holistic case that affects the Federal Republic of Nigeria and our great people. Mr. Speaker, allow me to use what you have just said in your remarks, to stand the risk, not to stand in the risk of plagiarizing. We must have to join hands. We have to join hands with all forces, within and without Nigeria. We have to join forces with global agents and organizations who are out to fight this unfortunate pandemic. And our resolve to join hands with them, our commitment to fight this pandemic, like you have rightly said, Mr. Speaker, has to be absolute. It has to be absolute. No two way about it. The business of every government in the globe is about the protection of the lives and welfare of the people you govern. The moment that is lost, then government is out of place. Mr. Speaker, it is on this note, and on behalf of the people of Kano State and the government of Kano State, that I still have to commend the efforts recently made by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for scaling up engagement. He has already this morning dispatched a delegation of expert medical doctors a team of about 42 of them. They are already in Kano. Mr. Speaker, by your leave, as we discussed in the morning, we will be a few members from Kano will fly to Kano this afternoon to join this team of experts to see how we can move this case further. Mr. Speaker, I also have to say, without any fear of contradiction, that my governor, the governor of Kano State, has also done the best he could do, and he will continue to do the best to be able to protect the lives of our people. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Before we open up the floor, you asked for the intervention of federal government, that the House should speak with one voice and ask the federal government to intervene, and I believe that is not a problem, but I think that was not captured in your prayers. That should come as an amendment to the resolutions that the federal government should intervene, and I don't believe that should be a problem. On several principles of constitutional principles, it was done in Lagos State, it was done in the Federal Capital Territory, and on the principles of equality of states and equal protection and equal treatment, I don't think that should be a problem, but it will have to come by way of amendment so that we can pass it as a resolution. Honorable Toby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu and I represent an area of Wojiri Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think the motion and the prayers are very clear. But I must commiserate and extend the condolences of our colleagues, my constituents, to the people of Kano State on the inexplicable and unexplained deaths in Kano. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think first and foremost, we must be very clear that it is Kano today, it could be another state. But what we should not be waiting for is to be waiting for another state for the coronavirus to escalate and we begin to intervene. Mr. Speaker, we have to be proactive. And more importantly, we need to get our messaging right. A situation where you have about 640 people that has died and is inescapable, you cannot explain it. It speaks to the absence of focus, the absence of leadership. If there is anything that is happening to our citizens to that tune, hundreds of deaths, we should be able to know. Now, we do not know whether it is coronavirus. Were some associated with malaria, others associated with other ailments. But Mr. Speaker, the class of people, the age of people that are dying in Kano cannot be explained otherwise. So we must face the facts. We must also have to get to our people to know that this is real. The message, whoever they hear, whether they are the clerics or whoever, we must have to get it right. And I think this has to be domiciled in every part of the Federation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the fact that the testing center in Kano is not working is a pointer to the fact that we can't get it right. NCDC has to be proactive. If you are not testing, how do you determine why people have died? How do you know how people have been affected? As a matter of fact, the issue of testing is the foremost on how to prevent, because when you test, you isolate. You avoid a situation where it escalates. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is the very point in time that we are thinking caps. It is better that we import test kits from China than importing Chinese. We need to import test kits. Unfortunately, a few days ago, the NCDC were advertising on Twitter for intervention. And they're advertising where they want to get lab. We need to know what else we have to do. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this president spoke, and we appreciate his intervention in Kano. We should get ready for other states. You have alluded to it, to the fact that there is quality of states. We don't have to wait for a situation to escalate in a particular area before we intervene. There must be a framework for everybody. So, also, there should be a local content to our aspirations. Pandemic means that this is worldwide. If it is worldwide, nobody's coming to your aid, Mr. Speaker. If nobody's coming to your aid, what is the local content of what you're doing? I have not heard that experts or scholars have been assembled for this purpose to find a local solution to this problem. We want to hear that. With regard to drugs, with regard to testing, what if we are not able to import anything? Mr. Speaker, there has to be a local content. On the 1st of this month, I wrote an article at the back page of The Sun. Homegrown approach to this issue. We must deal with it. And now we have a situation where the testing, even when you have the centers, you don't have the test kits. We want to know what government-to-government action is to that effect. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it will be belaboring the obvious to state that the situation in Kano will migrate to other places. Now, what we expect the PTF, Mr. President, is to have a Marshall Plan on what the states can do and the interventions federal government can bring. If we need to domesticate testing for states, let us train people and get it done. We cannot expose our citizens to this level of jeopardy. And we are just modeling through. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we must be united in this because it is a threat and nobody is coming to our aid. So while we support the leader's motion on the invitation of the people who are responsible and the fact that there has to be an amendment to prevent this by having a framework and equal treatment for all states of the Federation, I support this motion and I call my colleagues to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Toby. Lest I be misunderstood, when I talked about equal treatment and equal protection for all states, you have to put it in the context. I'm saying what I said was that there was an outbreak, major outbreak, a calamity almost in Lagos State and in FCT, and federal government intervened. There's no doubt there's an outbreak and a calamity in Kano, and therefore they should be given equal treatment. I'm not saying that every state, all 36 states, if you have one or you have none, that the same kind of intervention, there must be levels of intervention, but they should be treated equally within the context of whatever their outbreak is. Honestly, there's a problem with all this face masks. Yes, it's very difficult to recognize who is who.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Somebody said by their cap you shall know them. What if I was identified by a cap? How will I address Elumelu? Is he from Kano? He's wearing a red cap.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name's Honorable Dr. Haruna Michelia. I represent all the good people of Askra Overhaul Federal Constituency of Borno State, the home of hospitality and Imagine Peace. Imagine Peace because our gallant forces are working very well and our amiable, erudite governor is working very hard. Mr. Speaker, I want to first commend the leader for being like a doctor today and bringing this motion Honestly, Mr. Speaker, anybody that has heard the news and seen what is happening in Kano, and Kano is a town like Lagos, where we have all our relations there. There is a key thing, Mr. Speaker, that we need to mention. We need to engage the community, both the traditional and religious leaders who are the closest to the people, to explain the scenario to them, because COVID-19 is real. As a doctor for many years, I have not seen a disease that is as contagious as coronavirus. It is true. It is a deadly disease, and before you know it, one person can come and infect all of us here in this chamber. God forbid, bad thing. But the local people need to know this. And the only people they can listen to are their local traditional and religious leaders. I have written an amendment to be added to the resolution that all the 24 House of Reps members, the House of Assembly members, should go to their constituencies and engage with the religious and traditional leaders in their community and explain this thing. Because we have seen so many viral videos where people are chanting they don't believe in coronavirus. And it is very dangerous, Mr. Speaker. So I want to urge all members from all the states, because it is Kano today, it can be any state tomorrow. If you play kids' gloves with coronavirus, it will deal with you. Look at what had happened in Ghana. They thought they were succeeding, and they relaxed too early. What happened? There was a spike. So we have to be very, very careful, Mr. Speaker. So I am urging all our colleagues to ensure that all our communities are aware of this scourge, this invisible enemy that is killing people. I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
So we'll just take a couple of very quick amendments so that we can move on. Kabir Idris, what's your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Kabir Idris, member representing Kura, Modobuga, Rumalam. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to yield my voice on this very important issue concerning, it's a national issue. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate my honorable colleagues, being someone from Kano, the phone calls we received from a lot of well-wishers from the National Assembly. We really appreciate that. Mr. Speaker, my concern is this. My amendment, sorry. Mr. Speaker, my amendment is this. I'm from the village, and I represent people from the village. We have 44 local government in Kano State, and happens to be only 7 in the metropolitan city. Mr. Speaker, most of the issues we have and the testing centers we have in Kano are all centered in the city. Mr. Speaker, we have more than 60 to 70% local.
I already know your amendment, and I'm in total agreement with it. Go ahead. What's your amendment? Straight to the point.
People in Kano are commuters from the village, meaning from one of the local government outside the metropolitan. Mr. Speaker, my concern is if we can please find a situation where we can have testing centers in every local government in Kano State. That will assist in preventing this.
Okay, so Honorable Idris's amendment is one testing center per local government in Nigeria, not in Kano State, throughout the federation. So we're looking for 774 test centers. What's your second amendment?
My second amendment is this: to observe a 1-minute silence for the COVID-19 victims for the entire nation. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable Nkuruka, you want to second the amendment? It's both amendments.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Kiruka Onyejoch. I represent the good people of Usukwatu Munochi Federal Constituency. I am from Abia State. I rise to second the amendments made by my honorable colleagues. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Yep, the ayes have it. Honorable Aisha Duku.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, I'm Honorable Aisha Jibril Duku, Gimbier Duku, member representing Dukuna for the Federal Constituency. I come from Gombe State. My amendment is to include all key stakeholders, such as the religious leaders and traditional leaders, so as to avoid misunderstanding by the large followership when it comes to the treatment of any disease in Kano and the nation at large. I so move.
Any seconder? Honorable Idris?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Kabir Idris, member representing Kura Madobuga Rumala. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Kano State. I rise to support this very important amendment raised by Honorable Duku. I so support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Chair.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I am Chinyere Igwe. I represent Port Harcourt to Federal Constituency of Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, I'm moving an amendment that, in line with the objective of the motion as heavily moved by the House leader, that Rivers State, as the third largest state in Nigeria, should have testing centers and palliative for the people of Rivers State, because none has been extended to us, even though we have COVID-19 cases in Rivers State. I so move. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Is that Wumi? Yes, please.
Right Honorable Speaker, fellow honorable members in the House, I am Omowumi Olubumi Ogulola. I'm representing all the good people of Ijero, Ekiti West, Efon. I'm from Ekiti State. I rise to second the motion, the amendment as moved by Honorable Igwe. I so move. Thank you. I so second. Thank you.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Sejus, I think yours has been overtaken. It's the same amendment, one per local government. Honorable Waguba.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues. My name is Henry Wauba, and I represent the enterprising people of Mbitoli Kedru Federal Constituency of Imo State. Mr. Speaker, I want to quickly move to amendments, and the first amendment is that the National Orientation Agency, the voice of the National Orientation Agency, needs to be stepped up at this time, particularly in Kano, where viral videos have gone everywhere stating that the pandemic doesn't exist and that the virus doesn't exist, that is not real. So Nigerians need to hear the voice of the National Orientation Agency now. Generally, they need to step up their game. And the second amendment is that the Kano State government should quickly, as a matter of urgency, conclude the investigations. Because for a while now, they keep saying they're investigating, they're investigating, they're investigating. We need to know what are the immediate and remote causes of this death. I so submit.
Yes, Honorable Boma.
A very great morning, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I'm Boma Gude, representing the people of Agricultural Territory Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved by Honorable Henry Wabuba. I so, the amendment moved by Honorable Henry Wabuba, I so move. I so second.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Ishaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Ishaka Ayakunle Ibrahim is my name. I represent the very good people of Ifo Ewikoro Federal Constituency. I'm from Ogun State, Mr. Speaker. My first amendment is on the prayer as presented by the House Leader. I'm premised on the fact that all these principals who are the front runners on the presidential task force, you all agree with me how busy they are. So if we use the word summon, I think it's somehow heavy to summon them at this time in question. I rather say, by my own amendment, that there should be interface management with the relevant House committee, this on health, or as the House may deem fit, to engage the presidential task force and come back to give the House feedback instead of summoning them to the House at this point in time. Then, second amendment, Mr. Speaker, is that when the president shut down Lagos, Ogun, and FCT, Lagos was assisted, but Ogun State, maybe out of oversight, was excluded. I want to amend that the federal government extend the hands of that intervention to Ogun State, and perhaps the entire 36 states of the Federation, in the first instance, should be granted minimum of 1 billion naira as intervention fund.
Thank you. Are you done with your amendment?
Establishment of test centers in all the 774.
That has already been taken. Those in any seconder? Honorable Luga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Taiwo Oluga. I represent all the people of Urewole Federal Constituency. I am from Osun State. I rise to second the amendment as moved by my honorable colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Can we get an amendment on this federal government special intervention that the leader of the House argued? Honorable Nasir Ali Ahmed, can you amend the leader's prayer to include federal government intervention for Kano State? It cannot be all states. It has to be federal government intervention in Kano State, in line with the intervention that was done in Lagos and Kano. If you have you should pray that there should be no intervention in your state. Because what it means is that once there is an outbreak on the level of Kano and Lagos, we will ask the federal government to intervene in that manner too. Of course, I want to make myself very clear. Federal government will intervene throughout Nigeria. But where there is a major outbreak like was done in Lagos, that happened in Lagos or FCT, and that is now happening in Kano, it is important that there's a special intervention based on equality of states. That is what I meant. So intervention will be varied depending on the outbreak. You can't expect somebody like a state that has only one index case to ask for 15 billion. So go ahead, Honorable Nasir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Nasir Ali Ahmed. I represent Nasara Federal Constituency and I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I raise to amend the prayers of the House Leader to include that the special intervention that has been given to Lagos and FCT be extended to Kano State too. I so amend, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Osai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai Nicholas Osai. I represent local Kwani Federal Constituency of Delta State. I rise to second the motion as moved by my fellow colleagues. I so second. Yeah, second the amendment.
Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Rurum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Right Honorable Kabir Al-Asaruru. I represent Rano Bunko Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my respected colleagues, I am from Kano. Mr. Speaker, my amendment is one, that the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 should move to Kano or relocate to Kano so that they can now face this seeming problem that we are now facing in Kano. So there is need for the Presidential Task Force to immediately move to Kano for their operations so that they can be briefing Mr. President and the nation from Kano. That is my prayer, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in support, please say aye. Those in support, say aye. Those against, please say nay. The nays have it. Honorable, those in support of the motion as amended, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable members, the first business of the day is presentation of one bill, and I invite the clerk to read its short title.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Quarantine Act Repeal and Amendment Bill 2020, first reading.
Honorable colleagues, I don't think there should be any socializing. I can see somebody talking to Honorable Idris. Honorable Idris, please, we don't want any moving around or anybody going to talk to anybody, please. Let us maintain the social distance from the time we come in till the time we leave these chambers. Please stop trying to talk to anybody. The first order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to repeal the Quarantine Act, Q2, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Control of Infectious Disease Bill, make provisions relating to quarantine, and make regulations for preventing the introduction into and spread in Nigeria of dangerous infectious diseases, and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila and two other honorable members. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 28 April 2020. Honorable members, I invite the Chairman, Committee on Rules and Business to move that the House do suspend Order 7, Rule 1 to enable the Deputy Speaker take the chair. Well, honorable colleagues, we're faced with an interesting situation here. Ordinarily, the Deputy Speaker, because this is my bill together with two others, and I don't know if Honorable Sununu is here, maybe he can take the matter, but if he's not here, then we are presented with a situation where the Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker will come and take charge here. But that gives us a problem. My hands and my fingerprints are all over here. And when the Deputy Speaker comes, his hands and fingerprints will be all over here too. So both of us have a problem. So I think Chairman, if the Chairman will, somebody is suggesting that myself and the Deputy Speaker should exit. So I don't know what options we have. I don't know if Honorable Fulata can allow us suspend the rules so that I take this bill from here, or I can't think of any other alternative. Is Honorable Sununu here? Dr. Michelle, are you able to take this thing? Yes. Yeah. I think that's a perfect solution. The Deputy Speaker can say, you get a chair for the Deputy Speaker here. You get it. Deputy Speaker, I think you can take a seat here to my right while I go down to, because I'm trying to safeguard you and also safeguard myself. So the Deputy Speaker can sit here while I go and move the bill. Please move that the House do suspend Order 7, Rule 1 to enable the Deputy Speaker take the chair in order that the Honorable Speaker could move the motion that the bill be now read a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Abubakar Samfalata. I represent Berniwa, Krika Samagri, Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. Honorable colleagues,